Hey,
Hi,
it's Tash and Carly,
and you're listening to Motherhood,
not as we planned.
So get comfy, grab a cup of tea.
Or a glass of wine, and let's start talking about all the things too many of us avoid discussing. Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Motherhood, Not As We Planned. So today we wanted to talk a bit about just kind of more into that healing process.
Yeah.
I feel like we've obviously touched on it quite a bit, and we had that whole episode on journaling and manifesting, but I feel like I get asked a lot about when did I really know that I was ready to leave, and did I worry that I'd regret it, and I go back, and it, you know, I know that our situations are different, but I feel like for me, I think one of my biggest fears, maybe not even knowing, I don't know if I was aware of this, but my biggest fear was being on my own.
Starting again.
It's so daunting. However long you've been with someone, if you thought that you were going to be with them forever and you've got kids with them, it is almost like scarier to leave and start again than maybe just
Put up with whatever you're putting up with.
which obviously I'm very guilty of. So I think we wanted to touch on that definitely, because
Was there ever a point, so after you decided, I'm done now, was there ever a point you were like, oh, what have I done? Or do you think it took for you to reach that breaking point that you were like, there's no going back, I'm 100%?
I knew that there was no going back. So I've never really shared this, and I don't want to go into too much detail, but there was a situation where we did separate in, I think it was like the April, so last year in the April. And that's when I told a few friends what was going on, because no one really knew anything.
Yeah.
And then, but it wasn't me that said it, it was actually him. And then a few days later, he backtracked and was like, I didn't mean it, let's go to therapy. So because I wasn't at that point yet, but I had like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, yeah, let's go to therapy. And it is sad when you look back, and I feel like I was sort of begging for the bare minimum, which is just horrible. So we did the therapy, and then after that and a few other events, as I've spoken about before, I just had that moment, that light bulb moment where I was just like,
What am I doing?
yeah. So that's when I then was like, actually, I'm done. And from that moment onwards, I've never looked back. Yeah, I think I was at that point now in my head where I knew that things weren't going to change. You know, I think a lot of people hold on hoping that things are going to get better. And you just get to a point where I had that acceptance where like, this is as good as it's going to get, and it's not good enough anymore. So I feel like when, people message me and they're like, I worry that I'll regret it, or when did you know that it was time to leave? Sometimes maybe people aren't so sure and they have to take that risk, but I think you've always eventually got to look back and kind of like reflect on what is it you're holding on to. And I saw this thing on TikTok, and there were like a few questions, and it was like, ask yourself these questions. And these questions I could literally like really relate to based on my last relationship. One of them was, do you truly love them, or do you love what you believe they could be, their potential or their best bits? Yeah. Another question was, would you be happy if your children, or one day if you don't have children, like a child of yours, were dating that person?
That's an interesting.
And that hit me a lot, because I was like, no, I wouldn't want my kids settling from what I had. And then the last one was, are you truly fulfilled, or do you feel like being with them is just making you feel less lonely? And that really hit me, because that's where the fear of being on my own came in. It wasn't, I'm with him because I really believe that this relationship can work and we're going to get better. It was, that scared
yeah,
of the unknown, and what if the grass isn't greener, and what if I'm going to be on my own forever. But I think it just gets to a point where you're like, enough is enough, and it's time to just, you know, put yourself in that unknown.
Yeah.
And
I think just listening, it just makes me so aware of how different our situations were, because for me, there wasn't like a lot of ruminating and thinking like, could I be happier, this, that. For me, I was obviously in a position where I felt enormous disrespect, enormous distrust. And it was, I think a lot of it came down to just like, I'm very self-aware of the person I am. Like, I just knew straight away that was the end. And I was so certain it was it. Don't get me wrong, there were maybe 1 or 2 times after I'd made the decision to leave where I was thinking, have I made the right choice? But it was never about me. It was for my kids. Have I made the right choice for my kids? Like, do I try and make it work? Do we try and go to therapy? But again, I think those were more like just moments of weakness, like when I was feeling particularly low or sad, or, you know, like going through the emotions of the grief that you go through.
Yeah.
But I knew in my heart of hearts that it was over. And it's a lot of people think, wow, like she kind of just ended it just off this one incident or whatever it was that happened. But I think, and I guess a lot of that comes down to like own self-worth, own self-respect. Something went in me. I just knew that was the end. And it was awful. It was so difficult. And like you said, I think the biggest and hardest thing for me is that being on your own, not necessarily being on your own, but it's starting again when that person, like so many different stages of my life have happened with him, with a person, like living. I've never lived anywhere on my own. Like even the concept of being in a scary house on your own, like for me, that's a bit like, that's quite kind of scary.
Yeah.
You know, things like parenting on your own, things like having to think about everything. I don't know, just like obviously like the financial implications, just it's terrifying. But at the same time, I just knew I was done and I was going to have to make it work somehow. I had no idea how. And I think that's okay. I think one of the things I get a lot of messages saying like, I'm in a really unhappy marriage. I really want to leave. I'm miserable, but I can't. I'm stuck financially. I'm stuck this. And God, it is so hard. I mean, I'm still figuring out, you know, how I'm going to make things work. And I have to have faith that everything will be okay and everything will work out. But I'm also incredibly self-motivated that this will not, like someone else, I refuse to let someone else and their actions and their choices to impact the life I dreamed for myself.
100%, that's how I feel.
Like, no.
Yeah.
My kids, it's like, that's why I booked my holiday with my boys. I'd always wanted to travel with them. As kids, no, someone else's actions aren't influencing that. I'm going to have that life. I'm going to have the life I dreamed of. Do you know what's going to be even better than before? It is, because now, and a lot of it comes down to that self-respect. And it is really hard because when you've been treated or mistreated, should I say, for years on end without really being aware of it, you end up believing a certain thing about yourself. I know for me, massively coming out of my breakup, and I guess I'm only really realizing the impacts it's having, but like I came out having very, very little confidence in terms of like body confidence, feeling attractive, feeling beautiful, feeling lovable because of how things played out in my relationship. And you know, you can sit here, and that's one thing I was thinking earlier today, like as a PT and as what I do, I get like women coming to me all the time like, yeah, I want to feel amazing in my body, I want abs, I want this, I want that, like I want to feel amazing. And like one thing I've just really been thinking of is when we're doing those things, we have to make sure we're doing them for ourselves, not to please other people, not to look good for a man, not to look good for social media, but for ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, this doesn't sound big-headed, but like I've had a fit body for a few years now, and I was with someone, and for that person, they didn't find me attractive anymore. And I think, I don't know, it just became really apparent, like people are chasing this ideal body and things, and you can have everything and that still won't be enough for the wrong person.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure everything you're doing, like whether that's, I don't know, getting a treatment done to your face, or everything should be done for you to make you feel more confident, to make you feel better. Don't ever stop and do things for anyone else. I think it was last night I thought of that. I just something clicked, and I was like, so I was thinking, even Beyonce got bloody cheated on. Queen Bee got cheated on. Like, you could literally be anyone in this world, and it won't be enough for the wrong person.
It's exactly that. It's for the wrong person. You can do everything, but if it's for the wrong person, it's never going to be enough.
No.
And it's like I said, like I feel like I begged for the bare minimum, and that's also just so sad to think that, like, I don't know, like looking back and how far I've come in just over a year is amazing, because I was that person that felt like I needed to be a certain way for someone else. And, you know, what colour hair you've got or how thin you are, or like, that's not going to make someone be faithful to you.
No.
And I think that's also maybe also comes down to kind of like how we are with social media and comparing ourselves to other people and seeing other people, whether it's like a photo of them in a bikini or even just like a photo of a couple and they look so happy, but comparing yourself to something that isn't potentially real can be really dangerous. Yeah,
it's very dangerous. And as much as we sometimes convince ourselves we don't, I sit here and scroll and compare myself all the time.
Yeah.
Or my life or whatever it is. You know, you're looking at people thinking, how have they got all this? They look, I wish I had a relationship like that. I wish my marriage was like that, but it's not the case.
What are your thoughts on posting like relationships and stuff on social media?
I think it's so dependent on who's in the relationship, you know. I think, and again, it's hard, like with us and what we do, a lot of our life revolves being on social media.
Yeah.
And again, it comes down to the person you're with. Like if I was with someone who wanted their privacy respected, my value for that person and their kind of wishes are way more than me being like, no, like this is my job. You have to be on social media. Like,
funny, I saw this thing on TikTok and it said, the longer the caption of like, just say they post like a photo of them and their partner, the longer the caption, the worse the relationship. And I know that's obviously not true. Some people are going to be sitting here and listening and thinking like, oh no, like I'm in like the happiest marriage and I write a long caption for them because that's what we do. I don't think there is a right or wrong, but that video just made me laugh because I guess there were times when I posted like a really lovely like birthday post to my ex and it was a bit like,
but look, I think sometimes people can use social media to maybe even try and convince themselves they're in like an amazing relationship. I've probably been guilty of that. But I don't think things necessarily need to be on social media for it to be a valid, happy, loving relationship. I think because of the day and age we live in and because of like a lot of things are on social media, we seem to put this pressure of like, I don't know, everything having to go on social media. And actually, like, it's quite nice to have some privacy. And it depends on the kind of person. You know, there are some people who literally don't post on social media. I think particularly our generation, you've either got people who do or don't. More so men, I would say, than women. And like, that's okay. But yeah, so I saw this thing. It was a reel, I think. I'm not a TikToker like you. But it said something like, if your man's not posting you on social media, he's not proud to be with you. And I don't necessarily think
I don't believe
that's true because it depends on like the kind
I'll tell you where I agree with that. If this guy is active on social media.
Yeah.
If he's active on social media and is posting stuff of him and at the gym and at work and isn't willing to post to you, I think that is a bit of a red flag. Right? But if that person isn't active on social media and the last time he posted was like in 2017, don't need like a post about me and how amazing I am. I'd rather you I'd rather you tell me.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on relationships on social media then?
Well, I've recently posted my boyfriend on social media, and I feel like you're going to always have mixed opinions on that. I just felt, because I think people knew that I had a boyfriend, but I hadn't really shown him. I just kept getting messages like, when are we going to see him? When are we going to see him? And I think it's those people that, like, I'm not saying I posted it for my followers, but like, I feel like these people are invested in like my happiness, and they're always messaging me being like, you look so happy, like it's so nice to see you happy. So I thought, you know what, like I am, and this is the reason why. So I've posted it. That doesn't mean that, you know, you're going to see these like soppy grid posts.
Please don't.
Yeah, like I feel like that's not my page.
Yeah.
My page is about me and my kids, and if and when things change and, you know, he then becomes part of my family or whatever, then maybe he will be more on it. But generally, it's not really something that I like think in my head, like, I'm going to post like, it was his birthday the other day. I didn't feel the need to wish him a happy birthday on my page because he doesn't really use social media. So I told him to his face.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know. I feel like I don't really have any like rules in my head. I wanted to share him, so I did.
Right.
Yeah, right. And if it then feels right to post him another time, I will. And you're going to get the people that hate, and you're going to get the people that like it.
I've had people like, look, I think whatever you post on social media, people feel they have some kind of right to know stuff as well. And I guess that's where lines can get quite blurred, because I understand people are invested in my life. And do you know what? Like, I genuinely do believe a lot of people do just like want to see you happy. And it's nice to, I don't know, watch people go through like a really crappy time and come out feeling happy. Like, I've had so many amazing comments like the smile on your face and all this. And
also, you give me hope.
Yeah, 100%.
Make me feel, yeah. And that's what I like.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not just posting it just because I want to. It does help other people. Yeah, it's really nice.
So I obviously recently, last month, I went away and I didn't post who I went away with. And like literally like people are like, when are you going to post who you're away with? I've seen a man arm and like
a man arm.
I could just have a friend with a slightly hairy arm, you know? Like, I don't know. Some things are quite nice to keep to yourself. And I think, you know, when it's just nice to take that pressure off. Like, if you want to post about something, you can. But I understand what you're saying.
One thing I would say is, you know, when people say like, how did you know you were ready to like leave or move on or date? And I know we've spoken about that and we've touched on that quite a lot in other episodes. But one thing I will say that I thought of the other day is making sure that you don't go into a new relationship feeling like, because I was scared to be on my own. And what I wanted to make sure of is what I wasn't going into a new relationship to fix that.
To just not feel lonely.
Yeah, if you go into a new relationship because you're scared of being on your own, I feel like your standards will probably be lower. You'll probably accept less than you deserve. And then I feel like that is a start of a bad relationship where you're reliant on them for the wrong reasons. And then probably also scared to leave. Because if you're going into
you just get yourself in the same situation.
Yeah, if you're going into it because you're scared of being on your own. So I always like had this like thing in my head of whoever I end up with, however it happens, I will make sure I do not ignore any red flags and I do not settle for less than what I think I deserve.
Yeah.
Because I think that is only prolonging, is that the right word?
Yeah.
Prolonging
it is.
Like the inevitable, which is it will end badly.
Yeah. And again, not even just ignoring red flags, but also making sure you're seeing all those green flags that you now know are important, like communication, this and that. And I think that for me is the biggest thing is having that list that we've spoken about of qualities you want in a future partner and not having them. Like that's non-negotiables. Things like being able to communicate, non-negotiables. And again, if you're in the relationship just seeking company or seeking some form of security in just being with someone, you're going to be compromising on those qualities that are important to you.
Yeah, I do appreciate, especially when like women, especially, we have a time frame of when we can have kids. If someone, you know, I feel like getting divorced, having kids, there's pros and cons, of course, but getting divorced and not having children yet, you then still have that kind of like pressure of time. And one thing that I would say, and the advice I would give is, if you see a lot of green flags being ticked and boxes being ticked that you like, even if there are some that aren't being ticked, don't settle for what you think is the best of a bad bunch. Yeah, not necessarily the best of a bad bunch, but like, oh, this person so far out of everyone else I've gone on a date with, he ticks the most boxes. Don't be greedy. I'm not going to find someone that's... And no one is perfect, but someone can be, you know, ticking all your boxes, but they're... I don't know how to say it, because I'm saying that no one's perfect, which they're not, but that doesn't mean that someone won't be perfect for you. Does that even make sense, what I just said? Like, if there's something that's missing, but you're like, oh, do you know what? I shouldn't be picky because everything else is really good. Let's just ignore that factor. I don't think that's right. That is where mistakes get made again. I don't want to go through what I've been through again. I mean, no one does. No one wants to go through it the first time.
Depends what it is, doesn't it? Like, if it's a...
Say, for example, you've met someone and they're ticking every single box, but one thing about them isn't good and it's important in a relationship. Maybe the sex isn't good. Yeah? That, like, you've got connection, but you don't have the chemistry. Like, that may not be important to a lot of people, but I think that that's really necessary in a relationship. So all I'm saying is, don't ignore things that are missing
and that are important,
even if everything else is good.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, oh, like my ex didn't have that, or I didn't have a good relationship with his family. How nice, I'm close with his family. No. I'm going to ignore what's not good and let's just concentrate on the good. Because I guess that's what I'm trying to say is, don't ignore the bad and just concentrate on the good. You need to look at the whole picture.
I agree. I think on the flip side of that, though, if you've got someone who is presenting all green flags and a load of things on your list, but because you've only had negative experiences, your instinct might be to self-sabotage. And I think that is something that, look, I'm just going to hold my hands up and say it's a situation I've been in where I don't know, like the prospect of being in a situation where you might end up really caring about someone or whatever it might be, because I don't know, you might think things may happen too soon or whatever it is. And I think sometimes we have it in us to try and self-sabotage something because we might think we're undeserving of a certain kind of love or a certain kind of happiness or being treated in a certain way. Or we can feel like something's too good to be true. Like, there has to be a catch. Like, this person can't be this amazing. Like, it's impossible. And I think sometimes we can actually be our own worst enemy because we've got this seemingly amazing person in front of us and we're like...
It's like you're waiting for the bad, something bad to happen. Like, you're so not used to everything being good. It's like, so what?
So it must be something.
What's the catch?
So because things are good, in my head... when I'm sure I know I'm not the only person, there has to be something bad. And I think that can be quite, like, it's not good.
No, like, I can relate to that. And I feel like we've spoken about it before, where you're kind of, there's only so much healing you can do on your own. And then I feel like you're going to start learning triggers and situations in a new relationship that will help you heal. And that in itself will show you if you're with a good person, because how they react to your triggers. So I feel like, I'm not saying it's almost necessary, but that's why I was saying in a previous episode, don't wait until you feel so healed and ready, because there's always going to be
work to do.
And
it's that can't heal.
And it's not necessarily elements that can't heal. It's going to be elements that I don't think you're even going to realise need to be healed until you're in a new relationship. There have been things that have come up in my new relationship that are absolutely triggers from my past relationship. And it's almost refreshing to see the repair and the like discussion and the communication around that, which is so alien to me because I was in a relationship where communication really, really lacked. So I feel like it's like arguments in general, not just triggers, but arguments in general, I think in a relationship are vital.
They help you grow together though.
Absolutely.
Deal with them.
I think even if you argue every day with a partner, so even in like your existing relationship with your husband, even if you are that couple that argue every day, that's not a problem. It's not about the argument, it's about how you resolve it
and come together.
Yeah.
I also think it's about how you respect each other. Like I think it's really important to be able to respect someone that you may have different opinions, but it's how respectful you're being about it, or how you're taking on board things that are important and listen, but actually listening, and actually, I don't know, you being that team and working together. I think,
well, yeah, it's very much like when someone says sorry, like it's not the sorry, it's the
this needs to change.
No, it's not even, you know, like just say, for example, we had an argument and you were like, oh, I'm really sorry. But what are you sorry for? Like, have they actually really taken on board what the issue is to make sure that it doesn't happen again, rather than just it being a word? So I feel like argument in all relationships are actually necessary.
Yeah.
Because it's a way of seeing if you're with someone that is good at that, like repair and reconnect after an argument. That's telling, I think.
I agree. And again, I think I completely agree with what you're saying about the triggers. Is like, especially if you're with someone new and, you know, you're discovering triggers come up. I think as well, again, it's that open communication between you and that person, getting them to understand why things are a trigger, but also like it's their response. It's, you know, I think it's really important, particularly when you are carrying past trauma. And I guess that is what it is. It is past trauma, that you're with someone who, I don't know, says to you, what can I do if this situation occurs? What can I do to support you? Or what can I do to make sure you feel safe and secure with me? And I think, I don't know, a lot of it's like almost like a maturity in a relationship. I think something probably both of us lacked to some degree about, again, it's the validating of feelings, and it's making people feel seen and heard and understood. And it's that teamwork, isn't it? It's that mutual respect. It's that working together. It's understanding those triggers. But I don't think you need to get to a point where you're not going to be triggered by stuff. Like, I think as we grow and we go through different things in our life, different things happen to us and we experience and we learn from different things. And of course, we're going to take those things into our future relationships. And I just think that is part of like the growing process and like evolving into better and better people and having better relationships. That's why, like, I can't remember what I was reading the other day. It was saying, like, as people kind of like go through marriages, like first marriage, second marriages, like what ones are more successful, and often it's like the second marriage.
Well, you know, that mistake.
Yeah, and it's learning from mistakes, but it's being able to work with other people in order for, you know, your relationship to be so much more fulfilling and loving and successful. So
they say, I mean, who are they? But I saw this thing and it said the biggest reason for a breakdown in a marriage isn't infidelity, isn't money problems. It is a lack of communication where something is maybe bothering you. You do not communicate it. You build up resentment for it. You build up this narrative in your head, and then you start resenting the person that you're with for not doing something or not changing in a way that they're not aware that they're meant to be doing. Yeah. If you do not have good communication with the person you are with, I find it really hard now, looking back, to see how that will ever work successfully. Because no one's a mind reader. If you're not willing to open up and tell someone how you feel, how you want things to be, or how you want things to change, then you are sort of stuck. You're not going to improve or grow together.
And again, it's the response to that. I guess maybe some people don't communicate in the fear that, I don't know, if I say this is a problem, they might turn around and leave. But then that's a problem in itself, isn't it?
Yeah. Or it might start an argument, and then people maybe don't like having arguments because they're not resolved very well.
Yeah.
So
It's a bit of a...
Well, it's a vicious cycle, really, isn't it? But I feel like, as we've always said, I think communication is key. Like, it's my absolute number one value. Like, and I have to be with someone that is able to communicate. And I think, not wanting to like be sexist, but I feel like men do struggle with communication, and it's finding someone that is able to open up to you and communicate how they feel.
Right. Yeah, because otherwise I think a lot of people can brush things under the carpet.
I was very good at that.
You're so good at brushing.
But you know what's interesting is that I feel like I'm really good at communicating, but I feel like I became bad at communicating because I knew that whatever I communicated wasn't heard. Yeah. So now I actually do see that although I thought I was really good at communicating as a person, I've seen through triggers in and like from the past in my new relationship that actually I take quite a while to voice something that maybe I'm not very discreet in showing when something's bothering me, but I've never been with someone before that's like aware of it and wants me to talk.
Literally what you just said is me to a T.
So luckily I'm now with someone that would be like, you need to talk to me. And it does take me a while. And the reason why it takes me a while is because I was so used to my feelings not being heard or things being turned around on me. And that's very much something that I've noticed that I need to work on. It's my issue. And that here I am preaching that communication is my biggest value, and you've got to have communication.
No one's perfect, but just even the fact that you're aware that you want to improve your communication, that's a big opportunity of growth, and you know you're with someone who can help support that. It's exactly the same for me. I've been in a relationship for years. I've not been heard. I've not been listened to. I have always vocalised when I'm feeling certain ways. I can't hide how I'm feeling. I never have been able to.
Yeah, I'm so
like, if I'm upset, you'll know I'm upset. That is me to a T. You can literally look at me and be like, something's wrong.
Yeah.
But again, some of that probably it does come down to not feeling safe and secure to be able to vocalise that, and knowing actually I can vocalise it and nothing's going to change. So I think I hit a point where I just stopped doing it. And I guess in turn what that's happened or had an impact on now is, I know to me communication is really, really important, but I sometimes struggle with the idea of it because I don't know, I guess a lot of it is that self-sabotage mode of screw this, I'm running. Like, nah, like, bye, I can't talk. And that's just past trauma. But I know for me, communication is the thing that I really value. And I know it's something, because of habits that have been built up over years, is something I massively want to work on. And actually quite proud of how I've been communicating like recently, which is, that's how you grow in a relationship or whatever it is. And
Okay, so we thought we would go through some emails. There's so many that we haven't gone through yet. So let's find this. Okay, this is called Advice, Please. It's a short one. Hi, ladies. Please keep me anonymous. You've given me so much strength this last few weeks of finding this pod, so thank you. I'm looking for advice on my mother-in-law once separated. She's always bad-mouthed me, and my husband never stuck up for me. It's still the same now, but it's now in front of my children. My eldest, who's 13, believes every word she says and hardly comes to see me. As apparently I'm not as fun as dad, I'm stuck as my youngest daughter, 10, struggles going with her dad to his parents' house as she doesn't like listening to them talk about me. Help.
I think this needs to be an adult conversation. I think she needs to speak to her ex-husband and sit down, especially the fact that the other daughter doesn't feel comfortable. I think the biggest priority is making sure the children feel safe and secure. And, you know, like the fact it's then going to have an impact on their relationship with their dad, you need to sit down and just be completely...
I feel like it's a tricky one because obviously in general you can't pick your in-laws. Like, you know, even when you're married you may not get on with them, but then once there's that separation and divorce and you're no longer sort of like tied to them, it's a shame because you would like to think that they would be mature enough and nice enough to not say bad things in front of your children. Like, look, do what you want at home. Yeah, but in front of your children. I think
that's all.
I mean, I guess it also shows what your partner grew up with is parents that obviously don't have respect, don't have morals. So yeah, I would say I personally wouldn't go to the ex. I would go straight to the source, and because you don't know whether he's even going to bother. I mean, obviously we don't know in depth the relationship, but I'm just trying to put myself in the situation. If I ever heard that my in-laws were being rude about me in front of my children, I would maybe give them a call and say, I would like to meet with you and have a chat. I don't mind if you've got a problem with me. You are entitled to your own opinion, but I'm sure that you care for the kids as much as I do. This is making my daughter uncomfortable.
That's not
you are making an issue for my son. Can we please have some level of respect here and keep it to yourself? And unfortunately, you can't make someone do something. I think it takes a lot of... it's taken me a long time to realise that you can't change someone. You can't control what they do. But at least you can put that into place. And then if they're going to be still disrespectful, it's hard because, I can't even imagine our kids being like 10 and 13. But yeah, that would be my approach. So I hope that helps. Let's find another one.
Hi ladies, I'm hoping it's not too much trouble to send this in. I don't know if I quite have the courage to talk in depth or even to send this email, but here I am typing it anyway in hopes that touching on the subject and possibly getting your thoughts or conversations on it will help. Christmas 2021. I feel like my life changed completely. It feels really silly, but the reality for me is exactly that. I got married the June just before, but after being shouted at by my husband, it shook me. It followed on shortly after being accused of doing something with a friend, and then just the new year after, he sexually assaulted me. In truth, it's not the first time he'd done something like that, but I somehow managed to brush it aside and continue. Now, fast forward nearly 2 years and nearly 70 hours of counselling, I still find myself questioning what decision to make about our relationship and if I'm right to even think it. My husband seeks therapy himself to deal with it, and sadly, so does my son. My question for you both is, what would you do? What would your advice be? I fully expect you both to tell me that I'm silly for still being here. I don't know what keeps me holding on as if something is going to change. Kind regards.
First of all, you're not silly.
Not at all.
Like, look, I can't say that I've been through something like that, but at the end of the day, however much someone does something to you that is damaging, emotionally, physically, whatever it is scary to also leave. It's scary to be on your own. It's scary to start again. So first of all, I don't want you to feel like, don't punish yourself for not doing what you believe is right. However, like you've said, you know what we're going to say, and it's finding that courage to leave.
Easier said than done, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I think
Also, I think there's someone that can be physical with you, not obviously knowing a bit more in depth. Sometimes it can actually be dangerous.
So yeah, I mean, the fact that your son's having to seek some kind of counselling, in my eyes, I don't know if I'm misreading it, but that insinuates they maybe were aware of something happening as well. And I just think firstly, it's not a safe environment for a child to grow up in. That even if the child's okay watching their mother go through something like that, even if it's just emotional abuse, let alone physical, I think that is really incredibly difficult. And I completely agree. Like, it's so much easier to sit here and say I would leave. I would leave. That is my personal advice. Is I just think so many lines are being crossed. I think there's an enormous amount of disrespect, and
when I say dangerous, I feel like if someone can be physical, you don't know how they're going to react if you leave. So I would personally seek some sort of advice. I don't know who you can because obviously I never experienced it, but there must be some sort of like help that you can get to keep you safe from someone that is maybe physical.
I understand the hard part as well is obviously, I mean, you said your husband's seeking therapy, and obviously, I don't know, he must have some kind of awareness that there's a problem, and it's great that he is, trying to get help, because I think
and that probably was making it hard for her.
Yeah.
It's because she's wondering whether...
But I also think as well, then that in turn makes you feel guilty, like you should stay because he's working on it. And I don't think that the two necessarily go hand in hand. I don't think just because he's working on it that you should have to stay.
I reckon it's more hard to leave because you think he may change because he's seeking help. But at the end of the day, nothing can change what's been done. Yeah. And that's not okay.
I agree. Hi, just wanted to say how much I can relate to your videos and how much they help me. I really look forward to them each week. This is a bit of a long one, but I really feel like I need some advice. I've been with my partner for 11 years now, not engaged, but 2 beautiful children and a lovely home. He's never really been a fan of marriage, but for me, being engaged is just as good for me with that bit more commitment. When I'm seeing people all around me getting engaged or married, it hurts a little, but I'm not in the place to do it either right now. But I do want this in the future, so it is something I do want. The last 2 years haven't been happy, really, with lots of upsets, stress, money, and lots of other bits into the mix, and some lies about substances too with him, which I'm always on the lookout after his lies. This time last year, I got to a breaking point where I was masking postnatal depression and really unhappy where I was in my relationship, my anxiety, and seeked help from the doctor. I started sound bath sessions and really focused on trying to make myself better by going to the gym and putting myself first in some ways. I admit I haven't been the best girlfriend in being supportive as I was battling my own problems, and so he wasn't being the best either. Fast forward a year and I'm in a much better place, but there is still a rift between us both. There's still a rift between us both and bickering. I told him months ago that I was unhappy, but he didn't want me to go on the family holiday with our friends without him, so I decided to try and both work at it. He got worse going out, but blinded, I thought I'll keep going and the holiday would do us good. In fact, it was bad. All holiday, I took the children home alone and he stayed out with friends. I have a toddler and I wasn't able to chill. And this hurt as I felt like he was partying and I was just being mum, and people have seen this whilst away and was a bit of a topic. In my mind, I gave it to the holiday, trying to get the strength to leave once it was over if nothing changed. When I came home, I went with the children away for a week to see family, and when we came home, he had really missed us. He had no idea this was my plan, and I came home to presents, flowers, and he vowed he would change and the going out on the weekend would stop again. So I've stayed, but with the doubt in my mind it won't change, as we've been here so many times before. The Tuesday after he said he would stop going out on the weekend, he had gone to the pub and didn't tell me till he came home at 6 p.m, the usual time he would be getting home from work. This has been going on months, not telling me when leaving work, and he's been going to the pub. He's vowed to tell me going forwards when he does leave work, but his reason was I always moaned, so he didn't tell me. But how will I know for certain going forwards he's being truthful without sending myself insane? I feel this is deceit too. He thinks I'm being overdramatic. He tells me I won't get better than him and I have it good and to stop moaning. But for me, I'm not happy with the way he behaves and I'm not sure it will ever change. I fancy him and do love him, but I'm not sure if we are the same people anymore and have grown apart since meeting 11 years ago. He has a new job, which means he goes out drinking midweek and tells me it's part of the job. I feel I'm just being a mum, sat at home, no idea if he'll be home at 6 p.m. or not, and the same on a Friday. Financially, I would struggle alone, so I would have to get a second job. We have 2 children, and the thought of him being with someone else kills me, or if he ever changed for someone else, but couldn't for me, to even think about step-parents in my children's life. I just don't know what to do anymore or how much time to give it. Friends and family all know how he's behaved and I feel it is a bit tainted now. I have no idea what life without him would be like and don't know if I'll make the right choice by leaving. I keep listening to your videos over and over and trying to find the decision of what to do. He's promised he will change and he wants me to change some things too. I don't know if I'm just brushing things under the carpet because I'm not ready, or they are just silly things I would shut up about and be happy with what I have. 11 years with someone, I have no idea if I'm being dramatic and upset about the fact he's going out all the time and I'm just sat at home. I feel a lot has happened. No respect, different views. He thinks he should be able to go out with work. We haven't had date nights in so long. I feel like I'm just cohabiting with someone who's like living his best life without me and having us at home. I don't think he's cheated or would, bearing in mind how unhappy we've both been. We still have regular good sex, so that's not the problem. It's the fact our morals and views, and we've grown apart in things, that's the issue. I'm trying to put on the bravest face for my children, but I don't know what to do anymore. Do I go with my head and plan to leave? Do I see how things go after the chat we have on Tuesday and hope he will take it on board? He wants to wipe the slate clean and move forwards now. I'm not sure how many chances I take to see if one day we will be truly happy again. It's so hard. Some days I feel stronger than others. If you got this far, thanks for reading. Look, my opinion is it's clear that you've vocalised what's important to you and how you're feeling, and the fact that nothing's changing and you're not feeling, I don't know, safe and secure. That's not okay in a relationship. I think as well, I understand what you're saying about like it sounds like a lot of the time you feel like you're at home, like just doing all the mum stuff, and he is living his best life. Like he literally gets the best of both worlds. He can go out and do what he wants, but then comes back and has a family. And I don't think that's okay.
No, I don't think that's okay. And I can really appreciate what she's saying, whether I think at one point she says something like she doesn't know if she's just being like a bit dramatic. Like when there hasn't been like a big thing,
yeah,
like she caught him cheating or he's done this or he's done that, it does make it that much harder, because sometimes, especially when maybe he is slightly gaslighting her, saying like, you know, like stop being dramatic or that, it makes you wonder whether like, am I actually just overreacting? Do I need to take a step back and chill?
The fact, like he said to her, like, this
can't
is the
do it.
best.
Yeah,
I don't like that.
No, it doesn't sound like he's got much respect.
No.
I feel like this is a hard situation to leave. You need to be very strong in order to make that move, because it is scary. It is a change and it can be hard.
I think I would open the lines for communication again and almost be like, right, I'm laying it on the table.
Yeah.
I need to be heard in order for this to move forward. This is how I am feeling. This needs to change. The thing is, I would voice my concern over the fact, I've spoken to you about this before, nothing has changed. And actually, if these things don't change for me, these are really important to feel safe and secure in a relationship, I am going to have to leave. I would like to work together with you to make this work, because I do love it. It sounds like she does love him, and it sounds like she would like it to work. But I don't think he's giving her anything to make her feel like he's going to make those changes.
Yeah.
Thinks he can do what he wants.
I don't know if she's actually ever made him aware of what's going on in her head in regards to that she'll leave. So the thing is, there's two parts to this. One is, well, actually, they shouldn't change once they think that they may lose you. They should just be good in the first place. But if you're willing to try and make it work, at least communicate with him that, like, this is the situation, this is the ultimatum, change or I'm gone. But then it's that flip side of, like, you shouldn't really have to do that.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, you need to be with someone who respects how you feel and it wants to work together with you as a team. And if they're not doing that, then it's like what we say 100 times, like the communication and the validating and the working together, how you resolve those issues can either make your relationship 100 times stronger or it's going to pull you apart from you.
Yeah. So I don't know if you've really given... I would say that you need to make him aware of, if things don't change, you're going. Yeah. Going to do some stay or leaves. Here we go. I parent better when we're separate. He really affects my mood negatively and I don't know why.
That's a hard one. It's something I actually resonate with as well.
Really? The thing is, she hasn't mentioned anything about their relationship and if she loves him, so it's so difficult to say.
Yeah.
But that definitely does need to be addressed. Why is he affecting your mood? Like, if someone affects your mood negatively, that can't be good for you in your relationship.
Yeah, I think we need to know more.
Yeah, but I would definitely communicate that.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, that's a bit of a tricky one.
I feel like as well, when you're with someone, they should be adding like positivity to your life. Like someone should walk in a room and it should make you feel good and excited and happy.
Sorry, this one. In his best man speech, he said that my husband's mother still needs to cut the umbilical cord. I mean, there's not a reason to leave, but like, it's hard having a clingy mother-in-law.
Yeah, not a reason to leave.
No. Caught my partner with a secret Snapchat account and sending and receiving sexual pics.
I'd leave. It's cheating.
Yeah, that's not okay. Yeah, I would leave.
I also think just men in general with Snapchat, that's like a major red flag because anything could be going on there. I swear Snapchat's for like teenagers.
Yeah, I don't know how it works. When you're willing to forgive and work on the issue, but the other shows no interest.
Leave. Yeah, it takes two.
Yeah.
It takes two to make it work.
I love him as a person, but no longer in love with him. He's a really good dad.
It's a hard one.
It's very hard when there is no reason for a split, especially when you have a family, other than falling out of love.
Yeah, and I would say it's really important to communicate that before anything happens. I think sometimes the dangerous thing about falling out of love with someone is then people, I don't know, sometimes put themselves in a situation where they end up cheating or they're unfaithful because they no longer love someone. So I think it's really important that, as brutal as it sounds, they know that. I think honesty is really key in a relationship. And yeah, it's awful and it's heartbreaking, but you can't just stay with someone because you love them as a person.
Do you know what else I would say is, although you're probably like really worried that you're going to hurt him because you no longer love him, he actually deserves to be loved.
Yeah.
So you're actually, in theory, it might not feel like it at the beginning, but you would be doing him a favour because he should be with someone that loves him just as much as you should be with someone that. So I would say, yeah, communicate it. But like, if you're not in love with your partner, then it's not
anything wrong.
Yeah. Husband's mental health is bad, but refuses to acknowledge or accept help. Together for 23 years. Unfortunately, mental health, I think, is quite a tricky one. But if they're not aware of their issue and they're not, you can't force someone.
You can help someone who doesn't want to be helped.
Yeah, you can take a horse to water, but you can't force them to drink. Isn't that something? Yeah. So unfortunately, if that person is not willing to help themselves,
and then in turn, if that's affecting your relationship, like, it's hard when it is mental health because you do feel that guilt, don't you? You feel more.
Well, it's not like a lifestyle choice. It's like an illness.
It's
but he's not. But if that person's not aware of it and they're not willing to seek help, there's nothing you can do. That would build up resentment in itself. So I would say leave, personally.
Yeah. As long as you feel like you've done everything you can to try and help them.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I'm a bit of a fixer with stuff like that, but there is only so much you can do for someone.
At the end of the day, you cannot change anyone. You can only change yourself.
I agree.
So if they are not willing to get the help they need and make those changes, you may as well bang your head against the wall.
Yeah.
In the nicest possible way. So yeah, there's our saying leaves. Yes. What's our affirmation of the week going to be? What are we feeling? I'm trying to think of something that fits in with what we've been speaking about. Got one?
Yeah.
I'm ready.
I trust that some of my happiest days are coming.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I trust that some of my happiest days are coming. Say it.
Guys, affirm it.
Say it. Believe it. Own it.
True.
I love that. Thank you guys for listening. Hope you've enjoyed.
Yeah, don't forget, please share us, guys. It's how we get...
Spread us to everyone, guys.
Far and wide.
Yeah, share, follow. Yeah, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.